Good morning. You're looking at a live picture of the scene at the Miami Beach home of Gianni Versace. The police say they have only one suspect in Versace's murder. His name is Andrew Cunanan. A national manhunt is underway today, Wednesday, July 16th, 1997.
From NBC News, this is Today with Katie Couric and Matt Lauer.
And as you can see, Versace's home remains a crime scene this morning. It is a shocking story that will capture much of our attention for the next 2 hours. And welcome to Today on this Wednesday morning, everyone. I'm Katie Couric.
And I'm Matt Lauer. This is a sad story. Eyewitnesses say they saw a man, a white man, about 5'8", in his mid-20s, walking away from the crime scene. That matches the description of Andrew Cunanan, a guy who's been on the FBI's 10 most wanted list for some time now.
I mean, it was so shocking when I read about it yesterday. He's been on this program, Gianni Versace, a number of times.
Not that long ago.
Right. He's was not only extremely creative, but always very, very gracious as well. So obviously the world of fashion is mourning his loss. We're going to be talking with police officials in South Florida this morning who last night officially named suspected serial killer Andrew Cunanan their prime suspect. We're going to be talking also with an author who's just finished a very long profile of Cunanan, and we'll hear about Gianni Versace, the man from two of his closest friends, Vogue editor-in-chief Anna Wintour, and live from Paris, we'll be talking with supermodel Naomi Campbell. Matt?
Katie, there were some other...
Get to this morning, but let's begin over at the news desk with Ann Curry. Ann, good morning.
Good morning, Katie and Matt. Good morning, everybody. Today, police are intensifying their search for suspected serial killer Andrew Cunanan. He's being sought in connection with 5 murders, including the killing of world-famous fashion designer Gianni Versace Tuesday. NBC's Pete Williams joins us now from FBI headquarters in Washington with more this morning. Pete, good morning.
Good morning to you, Ann. The FBI says that Andrew Philip Cunanan is its only suspect in Versace's murder. That brings to 5 the number of killings that Cunanan is accused of committing.
Police say Versace was shot twice in the head at close range on the steps of his house in South Beach, Miami. Gianni Versace was one of the biggest names in the worldwide fashion industry, an Italian-born designer who built up a $500 million a year business. People who were nearby when he was shot say they saw a man in his 20s running away from the house. About 12 hours later, police identified a suspect, Andrew Philip Cunanan, 27 years old, already on the FBI's list of the 10 most wanted fugitives. Police say they're checking all around the Miami area to see if he has tried to leave by plane or bus.
Certainly, we have notified all of the agencies, law enforcement agencies, airlines, and other transportation facilities in an effort to try to identify him if he is leaving by one of those modes of transportation.
The FBI says Cunanan's killing spree started in late April. 2 of his friends found dead in Minneapolis. One of them, a former lover, shot in the back of the head. Police think Cunanan then murdered a prominent real estate agent in Chicago, stabbing him repeatedly. And then in early May, a cemetery caretaker was murdered in New Jersey. His red Chevy pickup truck was stolen. Miami police say they found that very same truck Tuesday at a parking garage near where Versace was murdered, a key piece of evidence helping make Cunanan the suspect.
Police say witnesses think they saw Cunanan in South Florida within the past few weeks, but police say they have no idea what the motive may have been for Versace's murder. Ann?
Thank you, Pete Williams, for your report. Versace's killing has stunned the fashion world. Princess Diana, who often wore his designs, said she is devastated by his murder. He worked with some of the world's top supermodels, including Elizabeth Hurley and Naomi Campbell, with whom he appeared here on Today last October for an outdoor fall fashion show. His murder has also shocked South Florida, where he lived and died. NBC's Kerry Sanders now joined us from outside the Versace home in Miami Beach. Kerry, good morning.
Well, good morning. In front of Gianni Versace's home here on South Beach on Miami Beach, things are quiet this morning. There are some security guards now posted in front of the home, in front of the gate, to control the throngs of curiosity seekers who are expected to return here later today.
At Gianni Versace's home, there is a constant flow of tourists, onlookers, and strangers who come to pay their respects. Into the evening Tuesday, the crowds kept coming.
What happened here in Miami Beach today is exactly what happened to John Lennon in New York City years ago. I mean, it's the John Lennon of the fashion industry, basically. I mean, it's just a murder that will go on, you know, shaking people up forever.
While investigators believe this was a hit, not random violence, For some visitors, this daylight murder along a busy street that is a tourist destination all its own is a reminder of an image South Florida only recently erased.
Europeans are definitely going to be even more careful about going down here in particular, because we already heard a lot of bad things about Miami, and this even gets worse.
Now, tourism officials say they plan to talk to as many foreign journalists as they can today to express their regrets, but also to say that they do not believe this murder means South Florida is unsafe for visitors. Ann?
Carrie Sanders, thank you.
On Close-Up this morning, Gianni Versace. As you know by now, the 50-year-old fashion designer was shot dead outside his Miami Beach mansion on Tuesday morning. The FBI said last night the chief suspect is Andrew Cunanan. Our next guest knows an awful lot about Andrew Cunanan. As a special correspondent for Vanity Fair magazine, Maureen Orth has been writing an extensive profile of him for the magazine's September issue. Maureen, good morning.
Good morning, Katie.
First of all, are we pronouncing his name correctly?
It's Cunanan.
Cunanan, okay. Thank you for clarifying that. What can you tell us about him?
Well, he's a very fascinating person, a very, very bright individual, and articulate and educated, and not to be taken lightly. I just spent about 6 weeks going across the country talking to dozens of his closest friends and associates in San Diego and San Francisco, Minneapolis, all different places that he is suspected of killing people. And the one thing that I think that he's reveling in right now is the attention that he's being given. I think that his whole life has been to come to this moment that he would be in the spotlight with the world's attention focused on him. And I have to tell you, one chilling thing I did learn in this 9,000-word piece that I have just finished writing is that when Cunanan in the early 90s was living in San Francisco, in the San Francisco Bay Area, he would name drop all over the place and brag that he knew certain people. And I'd just like to read you just one little anecdote. It says, to Cunanan, name dropping was second nature. Still, astounded friends recall that Gianni Versace once recognized him backstage at the San Francisco Opera. I remember you, Versace exclaimed. Lago di Como, no? That means, did they meet there? Those were the moments that Andrew Cunanan lived for. So I believe, Katie, that Andrew Cunanan did have the acquaintanceship of Gianni Versace. I don't believe that they were lovers, but I think that they were in the same place at the same time, and they perhaps chatted and they knew each other. Versace spent a lot of time in San Francisco in the fall of 1991. He designed costumes for an opera. And Andrew Cunanan loved to brag that he knew a lot of important people. Not only Versace, George Michael, the rock star. He said that his mother spa'd with Debbie Harry. So I believe that there was a connection.
Well, what was it? Was it a casual relationship? Did they meet once and then he capitalized on it?
I think that could have been it, or they could have been in the same place at the same time. Cunanan traveled in Italy. He wrote letters from Italy last summer to one of his victims, his ex-lover, David Mattson. I believe they could have been in the same place at the same time at parties and things like that. And I also think that the way he was shot yesterday at close range, it was almost taunting. It was almost like a hit, a mob hit, except he walked away instead of drove away. And it's like, look at me, you remember me?
Because newspaper articles about these murders were found in the red pickup truck. Isn't that right, Maureen?
That is correct. That is correct. They were, no, not in the red pickup truck. Newspaper articles were found in a red Jeep that belonged to his second victim that was parked around the corner from his third victim in Chicago. He's definitely, according to the serial killer experts that I interviewed, he's definitely following this very carefully.
Maureen, he has been quoted as saying, quote, everyone has their own version of what they think I am. Nobody really knows the truth. He was, in a way, kind of a master of disguises, wasn't he?
That's right. He was a poser. He was a gay gigolo. I disagree with the Miami police chief saying that he was a male prostitute. What he really was somebody who very carefully researched older, very rich gay men, both closeted and out, and he would put himself in their path. And he was kept by a very rich gay man in La Jolla up until last fall. And he was not really a prostitute because he wasn't really pretty enough to be picked up in that kind of way that you would traditionally think of as a prostitute, but he definitely cultivated the relationships and was supported by wealthy gay men, older.
Do you know, Maureen, having researched his life, if there was anything early on that triggered this, that turned him into the man he has become?
He always, he was very flamboyant in high school. He went to a private high school. He has an interesting background. His father is Filipino. His mother's Italian. His father was a Navy veteran who has been on the lam himself since 1988. He was a stockbroker accused of embezzlement, and he sort of flew the coop and abandoned the family and hasn't been seen for a long time. And I think that Andrew somehow, I believe the FBI believes he has practically a genius IQ. And I think he's somebody, the tragedy of this is that he is someone who could have, with his education and his smarts, he has a photographic memory. He never forgets a name or a face. He could have been somebody on his own, but somehow he didn't want to work for a living, and this is how he's ending up, apparently.
All right. Maureen Orth of Vanity Fair magazine. Maureen, thanks so much for talking with us this morning.
You're welcome, Katie.
It's 7:15 now. Here's Matt.
Katie, thank you. Let's get the latest now from the men investigating this case, Miami Beach Police Chief Richard Barretto and the FBI's Paul Phillip. Gentlemen, good morning to both of you.
Good morning.
Chief Barretto, let me start with you. The people who saw a white man about 5 foot 8 inches tall in his mid-20s walking or running away from the murder scene, have they seen pictures now of Andrew Cunanan, and has anybody positively identified him as the man who shot Gianni Versace?
Well, I'll tell you that our investigators have been meeting for quite some time with the witnesses. I'm not quite sure to the extent that anybody has identified anybody, whether that has occurred yet or not.
You found a red pickup truck abandoned Tuesday. That is a truck that matches the description. I understand it's the same truck that was stolen from a murder victim here in the New Jersey area some time ago. Was there anything significant inside the truck?
Well, obviously there was a lot of things inside the truck that are currently being processed as evidence. I don't know until those lab tests are done just how significant those articles would be.
There were reports that a murder weapon was recovered. Is that true?
Well, I'm not commenting on whether or not we have a murder weapon, but I will tell you that we believe that Mr. Cunanan is still armed and should be considered extremely dangerous.
In the past, he has committed or is alleged to have committed a crime with a .40 caliber weapon. Can you confirm that it was a .40 caliber weapon that killed Gianni Versace?
No, I cannot at this time. Those projectiles have been forwarded to the medical examiner's office, and the lab tests have not been conducted as such.
Mr. Phillip, I know you didn't hear our last interview, but Maureen Orth, who's written an article for Vanity Fair magazine, says that she has evidence that Gianni Versace and Andrew Cunanan knew each other, even though it may have been casually. Do you have evidence to that effect?
No, at this point, we can't say what the relationship was, if there was a relationship.
You had been tracking this man. He's on the FBI's 10 most wanted list. How certain were you in the past couple of days that he was in the Miami Beach area?
Well, about a week ago, we received some phone calls that he was up in the West Palm Beach area. And as often happens, by the time we got there and the police got there, either the person wasn't there or, in some cases, it was the wrong person. But we've suspected he's been here for some time. In the past couple of weeks, we've passed out about 2,000 wanted posters. And as a result of the wanted posters and the publicity last night, we're receiving a steady stream of phone calls that we're checking out.
This crime was committed in broad daylight on what could have been a very busy street. Is that out of character for Andrew Cunanan, and what does that tell you about his state of mind?
I just can't speculate on what his state of mind is right now. It's I can't tell you why he did it. I can't tell you what he was thinking when he did it, and I sure can't tell you where he is. But hopefully when we find him, he'll share that with us.
All right, Agent Paul Phillip and Chief Richard Barretto. Thank you both very much. 7:18, here's Katie.
Thank you, Matt. Of course, we don't want to forget Gianni Versace, the man, and few knew him better than Anna Wintour, the editor-in-chief of Vogue magazine. Anna, good morning.
Good morning.
Nice to see you. I know that you and Gianni Versace's family feel very strongly that you want to make sure people know that he did not have a relationship with this individual.
Well, it's possible, as Maureen pointed out, that Gianni may have met him casually on an occasion. Gianni met thousands and thousands of people at, all the events that he attended. But Gianni was first and foremost, a very committed family man and had had a long-standing and very deep relationship with his companion, Antonio, for many, many years. So, I totally refute any allegation that there may have been anything more than an extremely casual relationship or, shaking somebody's hand, if that.
You knew him quite well.
Yes.
What was he like?
Well, Gianni was one of those life-enhancing forces who walked into a room and completely captured, everybody's attention. He was, a brilliant designer, but he was, at the same time, one of the first, I think, in his field to understand and to manipulate the power of the press, to put the supermodels like Naomi on the runway, to put the celebrities in the front row of his shows, to use them in his ads. And he was able to capture the imagination of the world, I think, through the real force of his incredibly warm and caring personality. I mean, he was an extraordinary person.
I know people are saying that he was so able to tap into the popular culture and translate that into his design.
That's absolutely right, Katie, because so often what you see in our world is that a designer will reach a very successful level, and then they will, in a way, cut themselves off. But Gianni was always out there at the latest movie, theater, keeping in touch with everything. I mean, he always said that fashion wasn't fashion until you saw it on the street.
I know that his designs have been described as bold and brassy, and he always said his Mediterranean influence crept into his fashion.
Yeah.
How would you describe what he contributed to the world of
fashion?
fashion?
Gianni loved sexy clothes. He loved clothes that got noticed. I mean, he wasn't for, the shy, retiring girl. He was for the Oscar girl or the Liz Hurley girl in her wonderful bondage dress. I mean, he was a provocative designer, and he loved the stir that he would cause.
I mean, you can contrast him, say, to Armani, his fellow Italian, and they're worlds apart, aren't they?
Well, I think Armani dresses the wife and Gianni dresses the mistress. I mean, they complement each other wonderfully, but they're totally different points of view.
What do you think his legacy will be?
Well, I think Gianni will be remembered obviously for his fashion, but for his philanthropy and his kindness and his life-enhancing force. I mean, he was larger than life. He was a great, great man.
Do you think that his sister Donatella and his brother Santa, who are involved in the business, will be able to continue?
Well, Donatella has been for many, many years working so closely with Gianni, and I'm sure, once she gets through this, she'll be able to pick up the torch without question.
Sad day for the fashion world.
Very sad.
Anna Wintour of Vogue magazine. Thank you, Anna.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. It is 7:21. We'll be back in a moment, but first, this is Today on NBC.